Welcome to Gear Up for Peak Season with automated container unloading. To get things started, we're gonna just start off with a short video.
Stretch is our first robot that's really purpose-built for the warehouse. It moves cases all day long, it doesn't get tired, and it doesn't get injured.
The Stretch's morphology is a mobile base with a capable drive system to move in any direction, which houses the compute and the battery power to control the whole robot. On top of that, we call the turntable, which carries the robot's arm, a perception mast, and the vacuum system. The whole system was designed together. It's not an arm bolted onto a base. It's really a single robot. The other thing that makes Stretch special is that it's able to understand the environment and make its own decisions about what to do next.
The robot's really aware of its state and the state of the world around it, and it's reacting even as things unfold away from the ideal. Stretch is our
So welcome again. I wanted to introduce our speakers. My name is Shirley Go. I'm your warehouse automation expert from Boston Dynamics today. I wanted to introduce Stefan Drieschner from the Otto Group, Vinort Mahalingam from Hermes Fulfilment, and Travis Curtis from Boston Dynamics. I'd like to give our speakers a chance to introduce themselves. Stefan, why don't you go first?
Thank you, Shirley, and hello everybody here joining today. Yeah, my name is Stefan Drieschner. I'm head of department in the SCM division of the Otto Group, and in my current position, I am responsible for the implementation of robotics across the group. I joined the group in 2014, had various positions in some of our subsidiaries here, like Hermes Fulfilment, but also Hermes Europe, and since 2019, I'm part of the new established SCM division. Thank you.
Vinort?
Thanks, Shirley. My name is Vinort Mahalingam, working for more than 1 year at the Hermes Fulfillment, but I'm more than 12 years at the Otto Group. I'm working as head of network optimization and head of robotics, and steer all the robotics projects at Hermes Fulfillment. That includes our partnerships with Boston Dynamics and also Covariant, but also the other robotics that we want to implement in our sites. So I'm really happy to be here and to be part of this webinar. Thank you.
And Travis.
Hello, I'm Travis Curtis. I work with Boston Dynamics, and I'm actually on the warehouse robotics team. And so I have been with Boston Dynamics since before the start of our deployments of the Stretch robot. So also very happy to be here.
Great. So you might be wondering why automated container unloading. Let's consider these numbers. In 2022, there were 126.9 billion packages shipped globally. And that represents an enormous opportunity for automation and increasing efficiency. Automating jobs like container unloading can also help us keep up with demand, since global e-commerce revenue is expected to grow by 2027 to $5.5 trillion, or a little over $5 trillion. And while we're speaking about demand and fortifying operations, I wanted to touch on this statistic that states that demand for certain products can climb by more than 600% during the holidays. Safety is another driver when it comes to automating container unloading. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says that the number of non-fatal work injuries in transportation and warehousing in 2022 was over 255,000. Also from the U.S. Bureau, in 2020, the number of injuries in transportation and warehousing, and these were injuries that were overexertion in lifting and lowering that involved days away from work, was nearly 12,000. So automating technology is also a useful recruitment and retention tool. Modern Materials Handling stated that warehouse workers who would consider a pay cut at another company for an opportunity to use technology that would help them in their jobs was 74%. That same article also noted workers also said they're physically spending over a third of their day walking, and would welcome technology's help in the form of robots or other tools. That article also mentioned physical strain as taking a large toll on workers, the leading cause being carrying and/or lifting, followed by walking and/or traveling. So automating the process of container unloading can address many of those situations. For that, we have our mobile case handling robot Stretch. Here's a video to introduce Stretch and what it can do. I'm going to turn this over to Travis, who can tell you a little more about Stretch.
Hey, thanks, Shirley, and thanks again for everybody for being here. It's this morning here in the United States, and so wherever you are, we appreciate it. So we are. I think it's important to note that Stretch is a fully deployed solution, and we're actually in year 2 of our deployments. We've unloaded millions of boxes to date. And from that, we have a lot of learnings, and we also have a lot of feedback from our customers. Stretch, we consider Stretch flexible automation, meaning we're going to be able to integrate within your system as it exists now, whether it's a highly automated system or whether it's a very manual system. And what we've learned is that with Stretch providing the unloading, it provides a very predictable rate of unloading, versus, let's say, some of the surges and the stops that you get from manual unloading. And that sort of steady, predictable rate is really helping the downstream systems, just better flows with the way you're doing those processes. We're not asking our customers to bring in special containers. We're not asking them to route it a certain way. We really want you to be able to unload the containers the way you are doing it now, except now you're automating that process. I think some of the obvious things and some of the stats that Shirley just shared that also go along with this is that typically unloading and even loading in the warehouse space is considered the worst job. It's, if you're in a container, it's dark, it's hot in the summer, it's cold in the winter, the air quality is bad. And by taking the associates out of the container by using Stretch, we really are improving the lives of our customers' employees, and they get to go do more value-added tasks somewhere else. And I think Stretch, what's interesting, and we're starting to have conversations about, is that it really opens the door because we can automate this process for more floor-loaded containers. Lots of times pallets are used because they're convenient and they're fast, for example. But with floor loading, we can really cube out that container space or trailer space, which of course saves on transportation, saves on energy, saves on the environment. And if we take that even a step further, by not using pallets, we have the environmental impacts of not having to build pallets. And we also have the cost savings from not having to manufacture or purchase pallets. So we've learned a lot, and we're seeing different ways that automating this process has helped our customers. You can go ahead, Shirley. So it's nice being here today with Otto and Hermes Fulfillment. We work with a lot of different customers in a lot of different vertical markets, but I will say apparel, dealing with clothing and shoes, is a particularly great market for Stretch. Typically all those containers are going to be floor loaded. They're going to be very tightly packed, meaning there's very little space between the boxes. There's almost no space between the ceiling and the top of the box, as an example. And as you get into different seasons of the year, those boxes can be really heavy. And so now you have an operation that has to unload a lot of containers that are very tightly packed, So heavy boxes are over the associates' heads. They're having to pick them up for awkward angles. Now, that is something Stretch is particularly good at. Stretch can pick up about 23 kilograms in weight. We're doing things to constantly improve how fast we can unload those containers. I think you saw in that previous video that we were multi-pick some of those containers. And you're not required, just like with an associate or when you have an employee unload a container, you're not having to tell Stretch, what's inside. You're not having to tell it, hey, these boxes are going to be here. They're going to be of this weight. They're going to be of this many SKUs. Those are all things that does autonomously. It's constantly updating the scene, so it knows when, knows when the environment changes. We don't need a certain stacking pattern. All of that is something that Stretch can handle. We want it to be flexible. It's easy to install, easy to deploy. But kind of going back to some of the original points that we want it to work in the same manner you were unloading before, is that Stretch has to be able to complement downstream systems. And a lot of times that can mean the cases need to be on the conveyor in a specific orientation. And so, for example, Stretch is looking at the dimensions of the boxes or cases, and then it can place the box on the conveyor in a specific orientation. So, for example, a scanner can catch the label, or it may complement, a hold system that might be further downstream. So, pretty soon, or something that we're working on right now, Stretch, and it's what a lot of our customers ask for us, is that Stretch does actually have, we're working on label identification. And so what that means is Stretch won't scan the labels, but it'll actually identify where the labels are on the box and then do its best to put that label in an orientation that best complements downstream systems.
And before we get into it more with our guests, let's go and take a look at Stretch on location at Hermes Fulfillment in Haldensleben, Germany.
The Otto Group is actively shaping the future of logistics on an ongoing basis, and being the first company to implement Stretch in our warehouses proves us that we are on the right way and shows the power of the strategic partnership between Boston Dynamics and the Otto Group. It is our goal to strengthen our logistics processes by increasing operational efficiency and making warehouse work more attractive, and technological innovations and automation, just like Stretch is, a great tool towards this goal.
Stretch is a mobile case handling robot for the warehouse, and it can unload sea containers and trailers that have floor loaded boxes. Everything is on board the robot itself. Doesn't need to be connected to power or tethered to any airlines. It has everything on board that it needs to operate inside of a container. All an operator needs to do in order to start a workflow is drive the robot into place, go over to an operator tablet, press play, and Stretch does the rest.
Das Erlernen des Stretch war ziemlich einfach und für jeden technikversierten Menschen eine Leichtigkeit, ihn zu bedienen.
The performance and productivity of Stretch in the first weeks is really outperforming our assumptions we had in the first place.
Back to you, Travis.
Yeah, great. And so, thank you, Shirley. And so this is what you're seeing here is an actual image of our deployment at Hermes Fulfillment. So you can see that. And kind of the point of this is to show or to talk about when we come in to deploy a robot, we're not just bringing a robot, we're bringing in a complete solution. And that can mean the interface, that means the interfaces that your associates interact with. And it also means the safety system to protect your employees while they work around the containers. And so you see a few of those components here. And since it is a flexible automation solution, there's actually very little fixed infrastructure at all. You see an arch over the conveyor. And if you look down in the middle, you'll actually see a yellow, kind of a small yellow box. That's the LiDAR. That's the virtual guard that we use so that if somebody gets too close to the container while Stretch is working, Stretch will either slow down or stop working completely. So again, it's seamless, very little fencing involved in this interaction at all. But additionally, we're installing controls so that stretch actually interacts with the conveyor wirelessly. So as your employees will then pair the stretch robot to the conveyor itself, and then as stretch begins its workflow, it'll actually control the positioning of the conveyor. So as it works its way through a container, it'll tell the conveyor to follow it. As it backs up to, let's say, pick up a box, it'll tell the conveyor to back up. We don't want people to have to watch stretch operate them. We want those employees to go do something else or do some sort of value added service. And I think it's very important to note that, we don't own this dock space. This conveyor, even with everything set up for a stretch deployment, can operate just as it did before we arrived. So at any time, if you can move stretch out of the way for whatever reason it might be, and then your employees can operate the conveyor in the exact same way and unload or do whatever task that they need to do. We do all this. It doesn't take very long. We're typically only on site for about 2 weeks, and that includes the training.
Let's hear from our guest speakers a bit about the Otto Group and Hermes Fulfilment. Stefan, why don't you go ahead? And you are on mute, Stefan.
Thank you, Shirley. Before we start to get more in details, I think it's good to give you a short overview on the Otto Group itself. As you can see here on this slide, we are active in many countries all over the world, different businesses. So headquarters located in Hamburg, but Otto Group is, let's say that way, home in the world, or at home in the world. And we are mainly operating our e-commerce business in Germany, in Europe, and in the US. Just to give you an idea of some brands and companies here, we of course see the Otto, see Bonprix and Witt and About You in the German and European market, plus FGH, which is also a brand in the UK currently actively, and plus that we have in the US mainly Crate & Barrel and also Venus in the fashion segment. So besides that, thank you. Otto Group is also covering various economic fields beside e-commerce business. So we have, for example, Hermes Germany as one subsidiary here, which is mainly active in transportation and last mile delivery. In Germany, we have the EOS, which is providing financial services also to our clients. And the Hermes Fulfilment, of course, is one of our main fulfillment and warehouse operators in Germany and Europe. And in the last fiscal year, Otto Group was achieving a revenue from 15 billion euros overall. And you can see in the figures that still e-commerce, of course, is our strongest pillar here, with roughly 10.8 billion. Overall, Otto Group is employed roughly 38,000 people all over the world, being part of the success story, what we see here. So I think, hand over to my colleague Vino, who's some details on Hermes.
Yes, thank you, Yes, thank you, Stefan. I also want to give you a short snap about my company, Hermes Fulfilment. So Hermes Fulfilment is an Otto Group company, and we are the central service provider for warehouse management, returns handling, and logistics of the Otto Group. We are offering our service not only for customers within the Otto Group, but also for the external market. We have 7 locations around the world with 16 sites. So you can find our sites in Germany, Italy, Poland, Switzerland, Czech Republic, and the USA, of course. So you can imagine this is a big playground for innovation and robotics. So we have more than 8,000 employees working. And just to give you a feel, we are moving more than 500 million items yearly. So this is our network. As mentioned before, it's spread mainly across Europe. Each site has its own focus, from parcel logistics, bulky item logistics, but also reverse logistics for returns. Our biggest logistics center is Mahalingam, where we're handling more than 5 million parcels in outbound per week in a peak phase. And Mahalingam is also the site where we implemented Stretch. Besides our operations, which is our daily business, we are also focusing on innovation and want to go to the next step together with Boston Dynamics. That means implementing robotics, which relieve our employees, pushing our efficiency and makes us more flexible for future. So these are the main goals.
Thank you, Vino. And while we're on the subject of innovation, Stefan, I'll put this question to you. How does being the first company in the EU to deploy stretch robots speak to the Otto Group's interest in automation and being technology forward?
Thank you, Shirley. Yeah, surely we are proud of being a first company in deploying stretch here. Like my colleague Tomek already said in the short vid we saw. And of course, we were pretty surprised and extremely surprised how fast the whole deployment of stretch has been done, and that stretch was delivering the expected performances after a very short time of setting it up. So this was the first effect, positive effect, what we saw. And this milestone that we were achieving here is, from our perspective, reflecting both the quality of the partnership we have with Boston Dynamics and also the dedication of the teams involved at all parties. So that was a real team play, what we saw here. And what you said, Shirley, already, it also shows that Otto Group is permanently striving, of course, for our goal to strengthen our logistics processes for the future and by increasing operational efficiency and making our warehouses even more attractive and for our colleagues and workers here. So Otto Group is permanently investing in logistics automation. So we were taking one new shuttle storage in Altenkundstadt into operations this year, and we are going to open up a brand new site in Ilowa in Poland. So this shows that we are always wanting to be ahead, of course, and implementing the latest new technology and automation for logistics processes. And the usage of robotics and innovative technology will help us here in this context to reduce, of course, manual operations further and support the colleagues in their daily work even better. Yeah.
Thank you, Stefan. We're proud to be in this partnership with you. All right. So Travis, we're going to switch back to you to talk about a feature that's been essential at Hermes.
Yeah, and I think it's great to see stretch in action. And when you watch it do, let's say, kind of these smooth moves, you can really see the effects of having a fully integrated robot. Now, in this case, we're unloading a container for Hermes Fulfilment, but it's very important that the boxes are on the conveyor in a certain orientation. And so stretch is actually looking at the dimensions of the box and putting the box perpendicular to the flow of the conveyor itself. And what that does, it puts the labels on the sides. And so again, like we talked about earlier, we want to unload in the same manner you were doing it before we arrive. We just want to be able to automate it. And so in this case, by putting the boxes in that orientation, we switched this feature for Hermes Fulfillment. Didn't take very long, and pretty soon after we arrived, this is how we're orientating the boxes, so they did not have to adjust their scanning systems to read the boxes as it enters their downstream automation. I'll just also note this is where you start to see that wireless connectivity between stretch and the conveyor. So it may not look like it, but stretch is actually controlling the conveyor right now during that process.
You, Travis. So in addition to stretch, we have another robot in our portfolio, our quadruped robot Spot. And the Otto Group has the distinction of deploying both stretch and Spot. Travis, why don't you tell us more?
Yeah, it's a really great partnership with Otto Group, particularly around the fact that they're working with all of our robot platforms. So that includes Spot and Stretch. If you're going to integrate mobile robots and that work around your associates, it's great to get them introduced as widely as possible, and the Otto Groups really embrace that. Spot's a super interesting robot. It's our first commercial robot, and what Spot's really good at is working around humans and working in environments that are built for humans. And so what that means is that when it's walking around a facility that might have floor obstacles or uneven terrain or even stairs, Stretch can handle that. And so In this case, we're adding assets to Spot to carry around. If you notice, like the gimbal camera there, camera that would have like a visual and thermal camera on board, Spot can now autonomously run, for example, maintenance and safety missions. It can do this seamlessly. It can do it around people. And if you think about some of the places you may have to do these different types of inspections that could be either very tight or dangerous, that's great for a robot to go do that particular task.
Okay. Stefan, let's hear from you. Why was Otto Group interested in having a Spot robot? And what inspections is Spot performing on site for Otto?
Yes, I think Travis was just giving a great introduction and also some of the reasons we've been attracted by Spot as well. So it's really a nice piece of engineering what we saw here, and so it gives us also very high flexible solution here to support different processes and procedures across our warehouses. So currently, like we can see here on the slide as well, we are using Spot in mainly 3 sites. The 4th one is, I think, currently in operation. The Spot will be taken in operations right now. So Otto is the 4th site, and we will use Spot and we will scale up Spot here in these maintenance procedures. So just to give you an example here in the audience. So for example, in Altenkunstadt, we were deploying a solution for leakage detection in our pressurized air systems, which we are needing for the packaging sorter. So the technology here is not very new or not brand new anymore. So you can imagine that there might occur from time to time some leaks, and the sooner you can fix these air leaks, that helps to reduce energy consumption for producing pressurized air here. And that means at the end that you will save cost here significantly. That's what we do here. And of course, we try to bring up this solution and this setup also into all other warehouses where we do have packaging sorters supported with pressurized air, so we can scale it up here. But Spot is also very valuable for support in safety processes and lean management topics. Also to give you here some idea, it's for example, detecting if escape routes are free of any kind of things which might hinder people in escaping in a case of emergency. And this is just another opportunity what we're taking here. Plus, just a very interesting aspect as well. Spot was a great ambassador for us, at least, to make people familiar with robotics and new technologies overall. So we could just give people some opportunities to meet Spot and to see how it's working, how it's acting. And so from shop floor to executive level, people were pretty excited about this new technology, and especially about the easy way to handle it and overall the fascination of this technology. So that was very helpful as well for implementing robotics in our warehouses. Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Thank you, Stefan. Let's talk next about training for Stretch. Travis?
Yeah, so, kind of getting back to that messaging that we're not bringing in just a robot, we're bringing in a complete unloading solution. And that includes, training your people to operate Stretch. A lot of thought has been put into how the associates interact with Stretch, how they're able to start a workflow to make it as step-by-step and as intuitive as possible. And, when I think about this, our CEO has always said from the start, and it's kind of like his mantra that, Stretch has to be a tool, like a hammer. And of course, what that means is it has to be easy to use and it has to be effective. And we've really spent a lot of time working with our customers, to really bring that to light. And so, for example, we're typically only on site for a full deployment for about 2 weeks. We don't have to have a select group of employees to train to run Stretch. What we're doing is we're actually, the people that we're unloading containers, we will train them to run Stretch. And so now they're empowered to run the robot. And, we really get some great reactions from that. That training, really, they'll be running Stretch in less than 2 days. And then typically we'll take another group of, let's say a couple of those employees and spend 2 days and give them robot certification, meaning that they'll actually be able to train new employees or employees that come on from different parts of the companies to run Stretch as well. So it's something we're really proud of, and it's not a great flexible automation solution if it's not easy to use or if people do not use it. And so I think we've accomplished a lot of our goals that way.
Thanks, Travis. Vino, I think that our audience would like to hear your perspective from the field. How well have the workers at Hermes adopted Stretch, and how difficult was it for them to learn how to use the robot?
The workers adopted Stretch pretty well. Stretch is really easy and intuitive to use. So within a few days, the workers were able to operate with Stretch on their own. So we had a great demand internally, so that many employees want to act as an operator for Stretch. And just to mention, the guys on the shop floor cannot speak English in our side. So, but they were so interested to work with Stretch. So this shows that there's a huge interest in Stretch, and that is really also easy to operate with that. And the exact training phase, as Travis mentioned, was just 1 week, and that's it.
All right. And what impact has Stretch had on operations for you, particularly in peak season? How well has it performed?
To be honest, we are really surprised by the impact of Stretch in our operations. So within just 1 month of deployment, Stretch is unloading about 20% of our incoming parcels completely alone. So this efficiency is equivalent to the work of approx 1.5 employees. So we expected such results after several months. So achieving this in just a few weeks is really impressive for us. And we never how to say it, it was really impressive for us, sorry. So we are really looking forward how Stretch can improve its current productivity further, so we can improve our efficiency more. On the other hand, we are more flexible in the inbound process in future. So not yet, because we have planned for a scenario where Stretch just reached its agreed productivity. It was much lower, was the plan, but now we see Stretch is overperforming, and we just have done a defensive planning from our side. So that's why we're really looking forward to the next peak phase, where we can plan offensive, and it will become easier and more flexible for us.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to take submitted questions. Some were submitted in advance and some live. Stefan, I'll ask you this one first. Does Otto have plans to roll out Stretch across new sites within your logistics network?
Yeah, like Vino said already, the first implementation was very successful and met all our expectations. So, of course, we are planning to implement more than just this one solution here at Mahalingam. So we will start continuing the implementation at this specific site, at the specific area, in the inbound area. So here we are going for another 4 units in the next coming year, 2025, to bring these units into operations here. Beside that, we are planning also implementation of 2 robots in separate buildings, same location, but separate buildings, for also unloading containers, but also swap bodies, which is a kind of new challenge here as well. So this will be also very interesting for us to see how that works together with this Stretch robot. And furthermore, we are planning to implement up to 2 Stretch robots at our second site. So we do operate 2 sites at the location in Mahalingam for the same job, to unload, of course, in our replenishment process, containers and swap bodies as well. And last but not least, just to give you a short idea on what's coming up in 25, is of course the implementation of 2 units in our one-man handling business logistics center in Otto, and also in our Hermes Germany network. There's one proof of concept schedule for this upcoming year in the logistics center near Leipzig for unloading swap bodies as well. So this will be kind of plan for the next year, what we see here. Thank you.
This one, Travis, I'll put to you. Does Stretch handle heavier products differently or the same speeds and accelerations for all products?
Yeah, that's a great question, and certainly, that's actually one of the things that we've worked on, as part of deployments. Really, Stretch does handle heavier boxes differently, and so Stretch is weighing the boxes when it picks it up, not necessarily to provide data back to the customer, but to help it to understand how it should handle that box. And so, one thing Stretch will do if it has a particularly heavy box, and remember, Stretch can pick up about 23 kilograms, is it'll actually slow down the movement to help prevent that box from, wanting to release from the smart gripper system. And then we've also got strategies now that Stretch will try to pick up heavier boxes once it learns it's a heavier boxes from larger surface areas so that it can get more of its gripper on the box itself, to help prevent more damage to the box and more successfully get it to the conveyor. So there's actually a couple things that we're doing now.
Let's see, Vino, I'll give you this one. How long does it take to get Stretch running at a facility, and what is the implementation process like?
The whole process took around 6 months. Because we had to prepare several things in our site, so preparing the infrastructure, for example. So when we look at the time when Stretch arrived at our site, it only took 2 weeks to implement Stretch. So the implementation was divided into two phases, the site integration and the training phase. During the site integration, we just set up all the necessary conditions, which is necessary for the use of Stretch. So the first step was to carry out the mechanical work, then the electrical work, and also the network was really important. After a successful system test, the second phase was started, which was the training. And for the training, we only need just 1 week.
Thank you. Travis, I'll give you this next one. Does Stretch pick up amnesty boxes automatically? That is, boxes that have fallen on the ground due to grip loss.
Yes, yeah. So really important with Stretch is that we want the employees to have to help Stretch as little as possible. And of course, the environment inside a container unloading constantly changes. Boxes are going to fall, they're going to spill. There's going to be a variety of reasons why that might happen. Stretch understands what's going on around it. It's not pre-programmed, so it's constantly updating what it's seeing, what it's sensing on the floor, for example. And so if a box falls, if it needs to, it's gonna back up and it's gonna pick up those boxes. So that's just a normal part of its autonomous behavior.
And here's another one for you. What about unloading the first rows in a container when Stretch is not inside? Doing by hand?
So again, that's another. Yeah, so basically right now we do need a certain portion of the container to be unloaded manually. And part of that is just be able to put down the dock ramp in some cases. Stretch has to have a proper dock ramp, a gauge so that it actually can go in and out of the container. So a lot of that times that means boxes have to be removed. Now, from where we started at deployment to where we are now, we have slowly been able to back Stretch out of the container or reduce the distance of the manual unload distance. And so we'll continue to do that. But yes, very much so. The first wall of boxes, really the first couple walls of boxes are unloaded manually now before Stretch starts its workflow.
We have one that also says, how much does box integrity impact Stretch's ability to handle the boxes?
So I guess I'll take that one too. The Stretch can handle crushed boxes, damaged boxes. If you're going to unload boxes for customers, you can't build automation that only works with perfect boxes. And so that's also a really important part of what we've done. So again, it kind of gets back to both technology and strategy. If we look at Stretch itself, the end of arm tool or a gripper system is it's designed by Boston Dynamics and it's smart gripper. And so on example, when Stretch goes to pick up a box, Each one of the cups we're using vacuum is individually actuator controlled, meaning that we're only adding vacuum where that cup senses it actually has good seal. So that does a couple things for us. One is on a crush box, we're only adding vacuum to where we are actually making good contact, so we're not wasting vacuum, and we're applying the most force to where we actually have good seal.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank all of our speakers today, Travis, and especially Stefan and Vinort for joining us. Wanted to thank our audience for joining us as well. If you have any questions, please visit these links to learn more about Stretch or to speak to a member of our team. Thank you so much.